Welcome back. All right, so yesterday I talked about 32 players off to slow starts to the season. Reminder, it is starts. It's very early. But now I want to talk about 32 players off to very good starts to the season. And again, those really good starts can get a player's confidence up. It can give them, what they need in order to put together a really good year. Just like a slow start can be tough for a player too. So in some cases, these are star players that we kind of expected good starts from, and with some teams, it was more of a challenge. So, like yesterday, I had a hard time finding a Detroit Red Wing that was off to a poor start, or at least statistically. And in this case, some teams, it was hard to find somebody who's off to a really good start for teams that aren't getting goals and points. Again, no goalies are involved in this. I may be talking about goaltenders, say, in a video tomorrow, maybe towards the weekend. But at any rate, we're going to start with Vegas. We're going to go to the Rangers. It is truly a randomized order. I just threw them on the board. So, starting with the Vegas Golden Knights, who I think I started with yesterday too, but that's fine. That way, for Vegas fans, you can go about your day because I'm done. So, in this case, is William Karlsson. Karlsson, of course, the goals were fantastic that first year. They haven't been, at that same level since. But still, 6 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. That's a solid start to the season for Karlsson, who's on a team-friendly contract. He is an excellent two-way forward, and when he's producing a point per game, honestly, he's one of my favorite players. And yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Wild Bill in Las Vegas. Winnipeg's up next. That's right, Winnipeg doesn't have to wait till the end of the video. You guys can go about your day too. For Winnipeg, the team's off to a bit of a slow start, but Scheifele is not. So in 5 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points, which just blows away my expectations for this year, at least so far. After a 40-goal season last year, I thought, well, that's not usually Scheifele's normal, so probably get back to that point per game range, but I can't see him scoring at 40-goal pace. Yeah, he's got 4 goals in the first 5 games. So Scheifele's scoring at a higher pace than he did last year, but the important thing is he's above a point per game, and he's going to need to keep that up, and he's going to need help from others too if the Jets are going to turn around. Again, it's a 2-3 start. It's just the first 5 games, but you don't want to dig yourself into too big of a hole when it comes to the playoff race early in the year. For Ottawa, so during the summer, Jake Sanderson signed a big contract, and there was a lot of head scratching about that contract. Early in the year, it looks like a bargain. 5 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. I expected really good defensive play from Sanderson. I got to admit, him being above a point per game, I'm mildly surprised by that. Sanderson is an excellent all-around defenseman, and point per game is just, it's a bonus. Whatever offense you get from him is a bonus because he's very good in his own end as well. Sanderson, early on here at least, looking like a player who might end up in the Norris hunt very early. Speaking of very early, for the Arizona Coyotes, a team that is not scoring, well, Durzi's not having as much of a problem getting on the board. 5 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. He's also a plus in the plus-minus department. Durzi, of course, arrives from LA with sort of this idea that he's good on power plays, but 5-on-5, he can be a bit of an adventure. For Durzi, I do think that there's a lot there. I've been a fan of Sean Durzi for a long time. And so I'm glad to see him getting the opportunity with the Coyotes to show what he can do. And the Arizona Coyotes are known for turning defensemen around. Maybe Durzi's that next defenseman that we'll look back on and say, they really got him going. Gostisbehere being an example of that as well. Valimaki has played really well since arriving in Arizona too. All right, for the Capitals were not easy. Let's be honest. There aren't very many players that are going for them offensively. So I kind of had to go with Matthew Phillips. Who had a goal and an assist in the game against the Calgary Flames. So his first NHL goal. First NHL goal, right? Yeah, sure. 3 points in 4 games for Phillips. So again, if it's over a full 82-game schedule, if he can keep up that pace, that's about a 60-point pace, which is way more than expected. And this is where you get into is it sustainable? Probably not, but still, for Phillips, that's a really strong start for him, and I hope he can keep it going. It'd be nice to see a guy keep it going after moving to a new team. For the Edmonton Oilers, another team that's not off to a great start, but offensively, the points are there. I wanted to talk about Zach Hyman today. Hyman in 5 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. So he's above a point per game. And for Hyman, that's excellent. Now, Nugent-Hopkins has stayed really, really solid offensively. Draisaitl, of course, doing Draisaitl things. But Hyman, to me, stands out at being above a point per game. so far this season. Is it sustainable? Maybe. And with Connor Brown not producing, at least Hyman being above a point per game kind of helps to offset that a little bit. So yeah, we'll see whether or not the Oilers can keep that. If Hyman can keep that going for the Oilers. For the Dallas Stars, a team that's also had trouble scoring early in the season. But let's go ahead and appreciate that Joe Pavelski just keeps getting older. It keeps getting better as he gets older. Usually players get older and then, the production falls off. In 4 games for Pavelski, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points, while my cat runs around the room because Bear's had an ear infection that's been bugging her. I think she's starting to feel better. The eardrops must have worked. She's just darting around the room. So if you hear things, it's because she's running all over. Anyways, Pavelski, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in 4 games for him. Pavelski's been excellent. He helps to anchor that top line for them. And yeah, if he can keep this going, he can play well into his 40s at this point. So we'll see how far this can go for him. But 3 goals in 4 games. Stick taps for Joe Pavelski. Buffalo. Not easy with Buffalo, right? Buffalo's had their issues to start out the season. But Dahlin is producing at a point per game. What's interesting with Dahlin is all assists. So last year to start the season, Dahlin had goals. He was producing goals at a really, really strong rate, especially for a defenseman. This year it's 6 assists in 6 games. But again, is trying to find somebody who's off to a pretty good start. For Dahlin, a point per game is good. And this is while Buffalo's not necessarily playing their best hockey. They've got 2 wins in those 6 games. So, yeah, 6 assists for Dahlin. He's due for a goal. You look at it that way. If you want to take somebody for tonight's game you think gets a goal, Dahlin is due. They're against Ottawa. We'll see how it turns out. For Pittsburgh, so coming into this year, there was a lot of talk about players being older, and certainly they are, because that's how time works. But for Malkin, 5 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Excellent start to the season for Malkin, who can be counted on to be at or above a point per game generally throughout his career. Overshadowed by Crosby? Sure. A fantastic star player in his own right? Absolutely. So Malkin, 4 goals in 5 games, that's a really strong start. I do think this is something he can keep up, maybe not at that rate, but can he get into the 90-point range? I don't see any reason why he can't, because Malkin's a really supremely talented player. For New Jersey, and really good conditioning. For the older players that are still producing, it really is about conditioning. Malkin's is very good. For New Jersey, it kind of has to be Jack Hughes, and that seems like it's the easy answer, right? But for Hughes, in 4 games, he has 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. So he's on pace for 200 points this year. I don't think he gets there, but the idea of Jack Hughes producing 120, 130 points, it's getting more and more plausible with each passing game, and he can take over the game all by himself. It's really something to watch, considering it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that people were writing him off. He's a bust. He's not going to make it. And when he signed that extension, a lot of, he hasn't done anything yet. Why did they sign him that extension? This is why you signed him that extension, with the idea that it's going to look like a bargain soon. And guess what? It's soon. It looks like a bargain for Jack Hughes. For the LA Kings, I love when hard workers are getting the points and the goals early, and that's the case with Trevor Moore. So 5 games, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points for Moore. And again, he's on a really solid line. He's producing really well. The LA Kings, not a great start as a team, but Moore's been fantastic. So if Moore can hit the 30-goal mark, I'll say 30 goals this year. That'd be great for him. And again, I'm always a big fan of when a player that works really hard and puts in all the time in, say, a 3rd or 4th line role gets that opportunity to produce, and does. And so for Moore right now, he's absolutely getting that opportunity. For the St. Louis Blues, the Blues are not easy because they're not scoring goals either. But I'll go ahead and put Vrana's name on the board. It was not that long ago that it looked like Vrana's NHL career might be done, right? He gets waived and sent down by the Wings, and he's down there for a while and he wasn't playing. Well, now with the Blues this year, 4 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points for him. Barrett, you are in... I didn't give you catnip. I don't know what your deal is. Anyways, 3 points for Vrana in 4 games, I think is a solid start. If he can hit, 25 goals, if he can hit 50 points, I think St. Louis will be quite happy with that. I just want to see Vrana have a healthy season. I really do. I want to see Vrana play every game. I think that'd be great for him. and great for the Blues, who, again, if they can get the scoring started, well, Vrana hasn't been the problem, so it's a matter of getting other guys who are paid a little bit more than Vrana at this point, getting them going. For Montreal, one of the reasons for this video, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about slow starts and fast starts, Sean Monahan. Monahan, 5 games played with Montreal, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. He's been excellent. And Monahan, it's not that long ago that Monahan was producing at around a point per game for the Calgary Flames. So if he is really and truly healthy for the first time in a while, there's no reason he can't produce 60-plus points for the Montreal Canadiens over a full season. So 5 points in 5 games, I'm a fan of that. And we'll see again whether or not he can sustain it. It really is a matter of Monahan being able to stay healthy for a full season. For Columbus, so I talked about hard workers. Danforth. Danforth put in his dues before reaching the NHL. I am so happy to see him in 5 games recording 3 goals and an assist for 4 points. Anytime that a late bloomer reaches the NHL and does well, I'm a fan, and Danforth is no exception. And again, if he can score in and around this range throughout the season, that'd be absolutely fantastic. But even if he hits 45 points, I think that'll be seen as a huge victory for him and for the Columbus Blue Jackets as well, who are, hey, they're above 500 right now. So, Columbus is a team to keep an eye on as the season rolls on. For Colorado, a lot of players who are producing pretty well for them right now. When you're scoring 4 goals a game, that does tend to happen. But Arturi Lehkonen, since coming over from Montreal, he has really elevated his game. I think his game works better in Colorado than it did Montreal. 5 games for Lehkonen, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. Lehkonen, absolutely fantastic. And again, he's fit in really, really well in Colorado. This is one of those things that's always interesting, is to see a player that in one location, and I'm not saying Montreal fans didn't like Lehkonen, because they did, but in Colorado it has just clicked. It has been great. Obviously some big goals for him as a member of the Colorado Avalanche, and 2 goals in 5 games, 6 points in 5 games. That's a solid start to the season, so hopefully he can keep it up. Vancouver, it kind of has to be the easy answer, doesn't it? So Pettersson, great start to the year. 5 games, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points. So again, 2 points per game. He's on pace for 164 points this year. I don't think he hits 164, but can he hit 100 again? Yeah, he can hit 100 again. This is a player who is just dialed in. For all of the talk about whether or not he's going to stay and what's going to happen with his contract and yada, 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 he just goes out and produces, which I think is great. That's what you're supposed to do. Just go out and produce, go out and play well, and let the rest of it take care of itself. So right now, that's what Pettersson's doing, and kudos to him for that. For Tampa Bay, again, it's the easy answer, isn't it? But look at Kucherov's numbers so far this year. 6 games, 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. So Tampa Bay's only won 2 out of 6 games. And I don't know that John Cooper will be happy with that, but he can't complain about Kucherov's play. 6 goals in 6 games is fantastic. 9 points. Yep. So Kucherov's on pace for an 82-goal season. That probably would end up winning him the Rocket Richard. I say probably because the player that I've got for Boston is right there with him. And again, easy answer, isn't it? But there's a reason the star players get paid. So Pastrnak gets the extension from the Bruins that's gonna pay him big money. But so far he's proven he's worth it. 5 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. And Bergeron's gone. Krejci's gone. Pasternak's still producing at a fantastic rate. So not quite at the same rate as Pettersson. He's only on pace for, 130 points? Pedestrian, but still, very good numbers. Pasta's been excellent. For a Boston team that at times it looks like could struggle with scoring this year, Pasta's the one that's really helping him out. Pasta and Marchand both. I've mentioned Marchand playing with a chip on his shoulder. Pasternak's out there to prove something too, and it seems to be that he can destroy goaltenders and nets. I'm waiting for the puck to go through the net. I'm waiting for the netting to just tear and the puck to go through the glass and right through the stadium. You know that commercial? Anyway, Pasta's capable. So for the New York Islanders, a team that's not getting a lot of goals, they're not really geared towards that offensive side. However, a veteran player who's playing quite well is Palmieri. For Palmieri, he's played 4 games thus far this season. That's all they've played as a team. 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. Paul Mary's production's been very good. So while we still wait to see whether or not maybe Zach Parise comes out and plays for the Islanders, does he retire? Paul Mary is holding things together for a team that does have some guys who are on the older side. Paul Mary at this point qualifies, but yeah, point per game, I don't think there's anything to complain about there. For Minnesota, a team that I don't know is entirely happy with their start either, but Joel Eriksson, fantastic start to the season. So 5 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. Eriksson is a very good goal scorer. We know this. He does go through droughts, but most goal scorers do. And when he's on, like right now, 4 goals in 5 games, he is something to watch. This is a team, of course, where Kaprizov is the catalyst for most of their offense. But if Eriksson can continue to produce like this, and if they can get multiple threats out there, if Rossi can start putting the puck in the net, Minnesota could be a very dangerous team. But last season, we saw them very dangerous, and then they faded down the stretch. They need to avoid that fading down the stretch. But it doesn't mean fading at the start of the season either. You have to play that full 82-game schedule and play well throughout. For Seattle, a team that has had its struggles with scoring, so it's Vince Dunn. And it's interesting because their first game of the season, he wasn't hitting the net, but he's managed to get points. 6 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. This is a team that needs more offense overall, but Dunn has not been the problem. He's been generating perfectly fine. So if he keeps producing at this rate, he justifies the contract extension. I do like Vince Dunn. I'm kind of surprised at the level at which he's producing. And I say that as a fan of his game, but I keep looking at his numbers and thinking, well, he can't sustain that, can he? Like last year I felt that way, and then he did. And I thought, well, he's got to fall back this year. And so far, no, he hasn't. So I'm going to keep going. We know what's better than a career year? 2 career years. For San Jose is a team that definitely has issues, but Hurdle is not one of those issues. He has played 5 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. So San Jose doesn't have a win yet, but Hurdle is a winner, getting a point per game on a team that really does struggle to score. And if their scoring starts to pick up, Hurdle could be, in that 90-point range this season. So we'll see how sustainable all this is. For Florida, what a pickup Evan Rodriguez has been, eh? Evan Rodriguez, great start to the season. In 5 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. Remarkable start to the year. And Rodriguez is a player who in Pittsburgh was a good utility player, could play up and down the lineup. Last year with Colorado, showed he could score, he could play really well. And now in Florida, he's doing it again. I'm not sure why he bounces around the league the way he does. I'm still confused with Rodriguez, why he doesn't stay in Pittsburgh, why Colorado doesn't find some way to keep him around. Because he's also not a player that really has cost a lot of money cap-wise either. So Florida's got themselves a bargain thus far, and there's no reason to think Rodriguez can't stay in and around that point-per-game mark, especially since Florida's game's built on speed and is built on the creativity, and Rodriguez seems to have both of those. So that definitely helps and gives me the idea he could probably keep that going. For Carolina, I thought about Kotkaniemi. I did. I'm writing Jarvis on the board instead. The points totals are the same between Jarvis and Kotkaniemi. Jarvis, 6 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. Very good start. For Kotkaniemi, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points for him. And they're both young players that Carolina would have been hoping for that next step offensively. They've both achieved that. Now it's about getting Svechnikov healthy, getting Aho healthy, and figuring out how to keep the puck out of the net. But for Jarvis, it's about staying at that point per game mark, or right now he's a point above the point per game mark. And again, very dangerous player. I like Jarvis quite a bit. Good young player. Is this the year where he really brings this game to that next level? For Calgary, a bounce-back season for Calgary. Not the team, but for Andrew Mangiapane. Mangiapane, hard worker. I'm a big fan of his game from the work ethic perspective. And in 6 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. Not quite a point per game, but Mangiapane isn't a point per game player. But that 3 goals in 6 games, that's a nice bounce back from a down year last year. So, again, it's about trying to keep that up and get help from elsewhere if you're the Calgary Flames. But Mangiapane's not a guy who's getting any fingers pointed at him for the slow start. Not that I've seen. That'd be crazy. Again, 5 points in 6 games. He's been very good. For Nashville is a team that is going to be scoring by committee, but Novak, in 6 games, he's got the 4 goals. So there's nobody in Nashville that's really lighting it up so much. Forsberg's around a point per game, and it's nice to see him producing, coming back after so much missed time with injury last year. But I want to talk about Tommy Novak because he's got 4 goals in 6 games. He showed last year he's a pretty solid point producer, and yet you almost never hear about him. When people are talking about goal scorers in the NHL and, good players who've got, that fly under the radar, I think Novak's a guy. And if you're looking for goals, clearly he's got that going for him so far this year. For Toronto, it has to be Nylander, doesn't it? So the worst case scenario really for Brad Treliving is that negotiations with Nylander drag on and he has a great year. Well, to the start of the year, 5 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Can you argue right now, if you're Brad Treliving, that Nylander doesn't deserve a substantial raise? When you're comparing his production to that of Marner, that of Matthews, you look at how much money they make, Nylander kind of has to hit that $10 million mark, doesn't he? So for Nylander, he is justifying whatever price he's putting on himself for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it gets more and more difficult to argue with him if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. So does he stay? Does he get traded? Doesn't matter. He's out there producing. He's doing his job. As to questions about his contract or trade or whatever, that's between his agent, the GM, and yeah, his job is to go out there and produce, and he's doing it well. For Detroit, we talk about DeBrincat all the time. So I want to go ahead and give some kudos to Dylan Larkin, who in 6 games has 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points. Now, the chemistry between he and DeBrincat has been natural. It works. I am a big fan of what Larkin's done thus far this season, and if he ends up having a 100-point season, he's there. And I never thought in the years I've watched Larkin, I didn't see a 100-point player necessarily there, but of course we've seen Nugent Hopkins do it last year. And Nugent Hopkins may do it again this year for Edmonton, so maybe Larkin's following in that kind of a path. And if he ends up being a 100-point player, we can look at his contract and go, hey, one thing with Detroit too, and I wanted to mention Hall, I'm going to mention him here. Justin Hall's numbers have been very good to start the season. I think he fits in well with Detroit's system. It again shows that for GMs, they don't just look at, what a player's online reputation. They don't look at, well, what's the internet saying about this guy? They look at the player. They have their pro scouts. Pro scouts clearly looked at where they needed players, and they picked up some guys that we looked at during the summer and said, those are interesting contracts. But it's worked. The Azure plan's worked, and it's benefiting Larkin here too, where he's got 11 points in his first 6 games. He's got to be very happy. For Philadelphia, off to a surprisingly strong start. Travis Konechny is off to an excellent start. In 5 games, 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 points. I don't think he's going to stay at a goal per game rate throughout the season, but can he stay at a point per game? Yes, he absolutely can. The talent is there, the effort is there, and so I'm very happy for Konechny. He's having a really, really solid season for the Philadelphia Flyers. I do want to see that continue. So the next time out when I do a 32-team video looking at players who are having really strong seasons, it'd be kind of fun if Konechny was the guy up there again at, say, the 15-20 game mark, that kind of thing, right? So yeah, solid numbers for him. For Anaheim having trouble with scoring, which I think we kind of knew would be the case this year, right? But Vatrano, 5 games, 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points. In full transparency here, I have been a Frank Vatrano booster since he was a Boston Bruin back in the day when he wasn't getting into the lineup necessarily. I couldn't understand it. I thought Vatrano had a lot of talent, and now in Anaheim he's getting a chance to show that. So coming off of a very strong year for Anaheim last year, again, a year where they struggled to score, Vatrano does not have problems with scoring. 4 goals in 5 games is good. He has the assist there too to get to that 5 points in 5 games. Again, I don't know if he stays at a point per game throughout the year, but I think Anaheim would be quite happy with 55 points from Vatrano. They really want to get Zegras going, but while Zegras is having issues with getting going, Vatrano does not. For Chicago, there's only one guy in Chicago that really stands out to me, and that's Corey Perry. So Corey Perry had a rough year last year for Tampa Bay, and he looked done. By the end of the year, I was like, Perry's had a fantastic run, but as a top-notch goal scorer and point producer, that's probably over, right? Well, in 6 games in Chicago, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. I don't know how long he keeps it up. but being around a point per game and just looking rejuvenated with the Hawks. And I don't know if it's that he feels like he needs to go out there and prove himself. What it is, maybe he's got a chip on his shoulder, right? Maybe he wants to prove that last year was that was the aberration and he's not done yet. But whatever it is, Perry has found that next year he's looked quite good for the Chicago Blackhawks. And finally, for the New York Rangers, Artemi Panarin. So off of a, iffy playoffs last year where they got knocked out in the first round, Panarin took some heat. In 5 games this year, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points for Panarin. Panarin, showing that he is still one of the top players in the league, showing some goal scoring, some, ability to set up plays. And, yeah, the Rangers have had some good scoring. Adam Fox is at a point per game, too. So good starts all around, and it's about the consistent results when you're the Rangers right now. The one surprise with the Rangers is the struggles of Shesterkin early. Again, I'll be doing a video on goaltenders at some point soon. It won't be a 32-team video. Obviously, there's just not enough data for 32-team video looking at goaltenders. But looking at some guys off to slow starts statistically and off to really good starts and how sustainable any of it is. So let me know your thoughts. Which of these fast starts, and especially for like a Phillips or a Dursey, which of these is sustainable? Can Sanderson produce 60, 65 points, right? Like he's above a point per game right now. So I'm not saying he stays there, but can he get to that 60-point mark? Can he get to 50 points for the Ottawa Senators? Where's the ceiling for this season and then beyond? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happen upon this video or just because you feel like it. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.